Here it is. We're waiting for it. 10:30 in New York, 10:30 in Washington. Fox News alert now. The Washington, D.C. Court of Appeals releasing an opinion on Obamacare lawsuit. Jim Angle has the ruling in Washington now. And, Jim, what did they decide?
Bill, this is a big blow to Obamacare. The U.S. Court of Appeals here in Washington issued an opinion today saying the IRS went too far in reinterpreting the health care law after it passed Congress. Now, what happened was that under the Affordable Care Act, it said that it clearly said that subsidies would be available in those exchanges in the states, established by the states. 36 states did not establish their own exchanges, but gave out subsidies anyway. The IRS then ruled, oh, that's okay. You can give out subsidies whether it's a state exchange or a federal exchange. The problem is the court has just said that is not the case, that you cannot do that, and it ruled that it is absolutely incomprehensible for the IRS to have done this, that they went too far, and so they have, in fact, knocked this down. Let me just give you the quick language here from the decision. Because we conclude that the ACA unambiguously restricts the section of the subsidy to insurance purchased on the exchanges established by the state, we reverse the district court and vacate the IRS's regulation. This is a huge blow. It means that millions of people in those states will, one, no longer get subsidies, and if their insurance is more than 8% of their income, they will no longer be subject to the individual mandate. So this really knocks an enormous hole in Obamacare. It is unlikely that the federal government will go back and take money away from low-income people who've been getting it, but going forward, it's going to be chaos.
And going forward, it goes to the Supreme Court, right, Jim? In a word, yes?
Yes, because there's another decision pending in another circuit. They're likely to go the opposite direction. That means it has to go to the Supreme Court to be reconciled.
Could be far-reaching. Jim Angle, thank you. The breaking news from Washington. I want to bring in Dr. Ben Carson, author of the New York Times bestseller One Nation, a neurosurgeon and a Fox News contributor. And Doctor, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Experts on both sides, the right and the left, thought this decision ultimately could gut and really cut the heart out of Obamacare. What do you make of what the judges have just ruled?
Well, you know, this is completely what I've expected, and there'll be more revelations as time goes on. But basically, the Obama administration had been, along with the Internal Revenue Service, saying they could do pretty much anything they wanted. It states very, very specifically in the law, the ACA, that subsidies were going to come through the state exchanges. And many of the states decided that they were not going to set up these exchanges. And the administration decided, well, we can give them subsidies anyway. Well, it doesn't say that. That's not part of the law. And you can't just come along and change the law at will. Basically, that's what this is saying.
Well, you think
and I think it will go to the Supreme Court.
Yeah, I don't know what they do. I don't know what your sense of that is, Ed, but we'll read more about it and probably summarize and figure out an opinion as we move forward. But it almost sounds like the Supreme Court's got a redo on its hands if it wants or chooses to go that way.
Well, it's probably good, because I suspect some of them probably have had some second thoughts about their initial pass on this. And it's good. I actually am very pleased with what I'm seeing happening. Also, you know, when the employer mandate hits after the election, a lot of people are going to be extraordinarily alarmed. And all of those things are going to converge together to open the eyes of the people. And I want people to know for sure, everybody, I think, should have good health care. We have the ability to do it, but it doesn't have to be done through the government. And this is really the issue: government control of your life or individual control, individual responsibility, which will help bring the whole medical system into the free market economic system, which will lower costs and improve quality.
There was a story that broke late yesterday where 4.5 million are being granted another exemption from Obamacare. And this deals with 4.5 million people who live in the 5 U.S. territories. That's like Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. I imagine a lot of Americans didn't know that they were even covered under Obamacare. Anyway, they've been exempted, which brings the total Obamacare delays or fixes to 41. The number's 41.
Yeah, it just keeps going. And, this is another example. Because the cost were going to be too high, it was going to impact upon the federal budget, the budget deficit, $14.5 billion more. So they said if we move that out, we can deduct that $14.5 billion, and it'll look like the deficit is getting better. I mean, this is all just smoke and mirrors. And again, let's just go back to doing things in a reasonable, logical, open, clear way. It will serve the people, which is really what we want to do. We want to bring good health care to people. Why do we have to go through all of these shenanigans?
Well, we're about to find out whether or not that is indeed the case and whether it plays out quickly for you and it plays out for you. You made news in Colorado in the last couple of days. You want a straw poll out there? And, you turn on the radio and you hear this group drafting you to run for the White House, to run for the presidency. I mean, what is your view on that right now? I'm sure you're complimented by it, but is it something you'd make a move on?
Well, I certainly didn't give it much thought early on, but every place I go now, I was at a Costco book signing last night. There were just hundreds of people, so enthusiastic. It happens every place I go. I can't simply ignore it, so I am starting to think about it, but it certainly wasn't in my bucket list when I retired.
Still?
But I'm thinking about it.
I got you. You got some time. We'll talk again. Thank you.
Right,
Your timing was perfect given this ruling we just got out of Washington. Dr. Here it is. We're waiting for it. 10:30 in New York, 10:30 in Washington. Fox News alert now. The Washington, D.C. Court of Appeals releasing an opinion on Obamacare lawsuit. Jim Engel has the ruling in Washington now. And, Jim, what did they decide?
Bill, this is a big blow to Obamacare. The U.S. Court of Appeals here in Washington issued an opinion today saying the IRS went too far in reinterpreting the health care law after it passed Congress. Now, what happened was that under the Affordable Care Act, it said that it clearly said that subsidies would be available in those exchanges in the states, established by the states. 36 states did not establish their own exchanges, but gave out subsidies anyway. The IRS then ruled, oh, that's okay. You can give out subsidies whether it's a state exchange or a federal exchange. The problem is the court has just said that is not the case, that you cannot do that, and it ruled that it is absolutely incomprehensible for the IRS to have done this, that they went too far, and so